Phase Zero bonus episode. It's the Deadpool and Wolverine review with spoilers. The only Marvel Studios movie of the year is finally here. It's playing in theaters. If you've seen it, stay with us. If you don't mind spoilers and you haven't seen it, stay with us. But if you want to see this movie with all the surprises, all the story and everything else, and the zillion Easter eggs that we caught still intact, press pause. Come back. Share our show with your mom and share it with your dog. Let them listen to it and then come back to it yourself. I'm BD, joined today by Jamie Drack.
Hello, we're finally here.
Here we are. Jenna Anderson.
Hey, everybody. I was going to joke maybe the dog doesn't really care about spoilers, but I did see a service dog at my press screening, so dogs do care about this movie. I can confirm that.
Oh, that's amazing. Aaron Perrine.
What's going on, everybody? Man, we finally made it.
We made it. This movie. Oh my God, I have so much to say. I have seen what Jenna thought of the movie because I was on Twitter. I've honestly not been on Twitter as much as I usually am, which is becoming a trend for me. I feel healthy. But we're going to go around. This is how the show is going to go. We're going to share our reactions to the movie, all of us, one at a time. Then we are going to just talk about some of the story points, the key points of the movie, thoughts, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to go through all the Easter eggs. And there are a lot of Easter eggs. I had a notepad just full and just Easter eggs. And then a new thing we're doing today, questions we have after the movie. So what are we asking? What are we thinking? What are we theorizing immediately after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine? And then after the last 1 minute break, we will give you our review scores out of 10. Because that's what everybody wants to know. They want to put a number on things. They want to quantify it, and we'll do that. But first of all, we're going to go around with reactions. Spoilers start right now. This is your final warning. Deadpool and Wolverine, you're avoiding spoilers? Here you go. Aaron, you're at the top of the screen. What did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine?
Well, it's good to make me go first because I was thinking a lot after walking out of the movie about Vin Scully, actually, former broadcaster for the Dodgers. And one of his hallmarks is when there is a big play, he lets it breathe. And you did not come here to hear me talk about this movie. You came here mostly to hear about my injured arm after certain things occurred during the course of this movie. And
sounds like you sat next to Jamie.
Oh yeah, I just sit right next to Jamie and knew some of the stuff was happening and got it from her. And then one of the other surprises, Ariel elbowed me with her pointy elbows. So I'm just taking abuse. I just need Brandon behind me just to Batista bomb me through the chair, and we'd be great. Really, really fascinating piece. But like I said, I don't think I'm gonna have as profound a reaction as the other three members of this panel. So I leave it to you three.
Jamie.
Oh, I would like to say that I was very respectful of Aaron, and I removed all of the rings on my right hand and put them on my left hand so that Aaron would be safe and not get injured by my rings. I just want you to know that I was really polite and respectful. I had such a good time watching this movie. It was easily the most fun I've had at the movies this year. I don't think it's the best movie of the year, but it's the most fun I've had. A part of me thinks I'm really excited to see it again on Thursday because I do not know how this is going to hold up upon a rewatch. A lot of it was about the excitement and the surprises, and but I will say there was a moment in the movie where it like hit a moment where I'm like, I don't know, but then it really ramped up for me, and I was really, by the end, I had such a good time. I have to tell you, the end credits that were showing all of the behind the scenes footage from over the years, I sobbed so hard, but then I got embarrassed that I'm such a sucker and that it was making me cry so hard that I started laughing really hard, and I seemed like a crazy person. I was like, I was convulsing because I was laughing and crying. I was embarrassed. I was having the time of my life. But again, I am a sucker. I can't wait to talk about some of those cameos, especially one. You know the one. But ultimately, I had a great time, and I'm really going to be interested to see how regular people feel about this movie who aren't us, who aren't like crazy people who love this stuff so much. But I had a great time.
What was the moment that had you questioning if you were going to like it?
Well, it got to a point where I was worried, like, does this movie have any substance? Like, you know, it's so many cameos and I'm having so much fun with the cameos, but I don't know if it's more than that. But I think it, like, one, it had some really good action scenes, but there was an emotionality to it. And I think that a lot of that comes from Hugh Jackman. thankfully Hugh Jackman exists, and especially having X-23 in there, which I just want to say, putting that in the trailer a week ago was such a mistake. I hate you, because we're gonna get there, but she walks out last. She's the big reveal. We knew the big reveal, and that makes me mad. But that relationship is so important, and I think that really helped the movie be more than just a big joke.
What's funny is she is the only cameo that I didn't know about before watching it.
Really?
And then she
Wow.
was the one that ended up being in the trailer. I knew
Oh.
I had heard about every other person.
Oh.
Actually, no, that's not true. There was one person I had no idea, and that's Happy Hogan. I had no idea we were going to see Jon Favreau in this movie. But I actually heard Chris Evans, but I heard it was as Captain America, but I knew it was Chris Evans. Obviously, we all knew about Jennifer Garner. Blade, I found out about a little bit before. I saw like a couple days beforehand. The other one that I didn't know also was Hunter B-15, but they slapped her into a trailer too, right before the. Jenna, what'd you think?
First of all, Jamie, I saw that you tweeted that you cried, and I almost texted you to ask if it was during the mid credits, but like spiritually in my bones, I knew it was during the mid credits. I felt like that was kind of a redundant question. I also got very emotional over it. I was so pleasantly surprised by this movie. Like, I am still in awe of how surprised I am by this movie. I think part of it was us talking about it every single week ad nauseum. I didn't know what to expect. I felt like everyone else's expectations were so high. I felt like everyone went in for this massive carousel of cameos, and I was fully prepared to just enjoy what I could out of that. I was not anticipating the heart that is in this movie. I was not anticipating the way that this movie helps legitimize the previous incarnations of all of these characters, and like the whole storyline of trying to give them an ending really hit and really worked for me. It's just so much fun. Like Jamie said, I have never been so entertained by something in the theaters in a really long time, and never been like so surprised by something in a really long time. It's just so nice to have that feeling, especially in our industry where it feels like we know everything, we're spoiled on everything.
I get where Jamie's coming from in terms of like the story, wondering like, is it going to have substance? Because I started to feel that way as well a bit. And by the end of it, it didn't have the depth that I wanted it to. Especially after hearing the way they were talking about it in the press tour, where they were saying it has this tremendous emotional weight to it. It did have some good moments of emotion, but I mean, there's certainly no deeper than like the Adam Project or Free Guy in a sense. I would say some of those moments and those I like the Adam Project quite a bit. I know. But I sat here and watched it with my mom, so maybe. But what's up, Aaron?
I was gonna ask you, did you feel like, because I had this question as well as a person like that's kind of like outside the glass case of emotion that's going on next to me on both sides. Like, I feel like Shawn Levy is a strong director at those weird emotional beats, and that the humorous tone of some of the stuff, and not just letting those things be emotional, hurt parts of the movie.
I agree.
Like, the strongest parts are, bro, I love you too. And then to like lampshade it constantly almost does it a disservice. Cause I'm like, yo, like this is really moving. Like the two of these dudes really do care about each other a ton. Like it's some Nettie and Sealy, I will love you forever. Like real, like bro friendship that I was like, don't undercut this with the humor. It's like this is the realness that you've been talking about in the press tour. I'm really like, that's so interesting that you guys felt that way too.
Yeah, that's my biggest criticism. That's one of my two criticisms of the film is the humor overpowered the heart too often. And I do think there still was good heart. I think the flashback stuff, especially like the Vanessa moments where they reminded you Wade wants to matter for her, stuff like that works for me. But then it was very often met with just a one-liner or something. There were I feel like every other line for the most part was trying to make you laugh. And for the most part of that, I did laugh at the ones that they wanted me to laugh with. But also, like it feels like the only moment where there was like an emotional boom was when Hugh Jackman delivered that awesome monologue where he got pissed off in the car and just ripped into Wade and was just like, you just all the things he said that were really mean to Wade. And it cuts over to Wade. And by that point in the film, I was just like, that was such a good performance by Hugh. That was such a vicious thing to say. He's going to have a one-liner. And he just stared back and I, like in silence. And I was like, whoa. It seems like they knew what they were doing. They knew Wade was so annoying sometimes that the silence was so powerful in that moment. And then he paused and he's like, I'm gonna fight you now. And I was like, wow, that actually worked really well. That was a really clever way to use the fact that you've done so much comedy that we expected it. And in this moment, you made it poignant that it wasn't funny. And the other thing is, I thought the villains were kind of weak. I didn't think Cassandra Nova and Paradox were that great. They weren't bad, but they certainly, like, I don't think Marvel only has a few exceptional villains, in my opinion. Thanos, Killmonger, Loki, and those are probably the easy top three, and then probably a gap to whoever I'd say is fourth. Winter Soldier, I guess, but he's not even, But yeah, I think that they are somewhere in the middle of the road. I thought that Matthew McFadden just felt like British Tom Wamsgams. Like he was very much a continuation of his Succession character in a sense, but which wasn't bad. Like it wasn't a performance thing that I think is my issue with the villains. I thought like I didn't really buy into Cassandra Nova's story, and maybe I missed something, but I just felt like, okay, she wants to destroy Earth 10005. She hates Tom for locking her there, Paradox for locking her in there. But I don't know. I didn't really buy into the villain of it all. That's kind of those are my two biggest criticisms.
I will say, on the point of your first criticism, I do think this movie had a better understanding and a better social awareness of just how Wade's sense of humor doesn't work with everybody. As someone who came on this podcast and kind of voiced my distaste for Deadpool 2, a large part of that is that every other character has a very weird relationship to Wade just constantly saying all of these one-liners. And I felt like this movie had a much more natural understanding of like people calling him out and like, hey, that's not appropriate. Hey, that's really weird. Like it obviously there were still so many jokes flying, but I felt like it kind of made sense like within the world that he was in. It felt like the most comic accurate to me, because when Deadpool's in the comics, when he's crossing over with everybody, that is kind of the dynamic he has, and it felt like something that we had only had like a taste of in the previous two. Cassandra Nova's a whole separate debate, and I'm sure we'll have that because I saw Jamie made a face. I think she has thoughts as well.
Yeah,
I just want to build on what you said about the character being great. I also thought they did a really good job with this Wolverine, because like the subtle things like him being upset over Johnny Storm dying and just kind of wanting to save people and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was a really good way to show this is a Wolverine who wants to be a hero. Like he failed, but he wants to be here. And him also, when he said, I couldn't let them know I wanted to be there. Like he refused to wear the yellow and blue suit because he didn't want to let them know that he did want to be with everybody. That hit me. I thought that was really good. But yeah.
I was so relieved because I've been worried this whole time that his character would be too much like Deadpool, and because there's a line in that cell phone PSA that I really hate that he says that I can't say on the show, and it has worried me. But the movie didn't feel that way, and I really thought he did a good job of making this a slightly different Logan while still feeling like Hugh's Logan. I just thought his performance, he balanced it out so beautifully.
A Logan who hates the Avengers, by the way. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's get into Cassandra Nova of it all. Who disagrees with me that I thought Cassandra was not a tremendous villain, not a super moving villain?
I will say, in the comics, her lore is so dense, and a lot of her like conflict with the X-Men takes a lot of time to kind of get into the specifics of it. So I think in the context of the movie, how they utilized her totally worked for me. I think, yes, it's a little shallow in the grand scheme of things. They probably could have gone even deeper, but like for a movie that is so high octane, has so much stuff going on, I thought she played into it really well. And just Emma Corrin's energy, they just really, really embodied what Cassandra Nova is in the comics. And just seeing how the powers worked was super, super cool for me. Like that was disgusting in the best possible way. So I had a great time, but I get why you were maybe a little dissatisfied.
I think Emma Corrin was great in the role, by the way. I think Emma Corrin did a really good job, but I just think the writing, or maybe I feel like there was probably even more written for Cassandra Nova than what we got. But Jamie, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm totally with Jenna. Like, obviously, it could have been more, could have had more, absolutely. But I just think Emma Corrin, I think they just have such a dynamic presence to them, and I just really enjoyed watching their performance. And it's just it's a fun character, and it seemed like they were having fun with the character. But I won't say like it was, perfectly executed. There could have been more. We could have seen more. I went to the bathroom and missed Cassandra killing Pyro, so I can't speak on that.
Wow.
I know. My X2 boy, and I missed it. So I'm going again on Thursday or yesterday. I'm going.
This is as
yesterday.
good a time of any good of time as any to plug on this show that Aaron Stanford. I sat down with him in New York on Tuesday morning, and we did a full spoiler-filled discussion that I am not entirely sure at the time of us talking about this movie review when we're allowed to release it. There is like a spoiler embargo, but we talked all about that stuff. Pyro's death, coming back, everything. Oh, and by the way, Chris Evans was on set. Like when I watched that, I was like, "Is this green screened?" There's no way Chris Evans, because I was surely this is all the set photos.
Mm-hmm.
There was no Chris Evans in those set photos. He was on set. He filmed with everybody else. It just didn't get out there. It didn't get out to the public.
I'm impressed because
pretty
honestly,
impressive.
his head looked CGI'd onto a different person's body. Like it looked kind of like how Krasinski was in Multiverse of Madness a little bit. But like now knowing that he was physically there makes me a lot happier. And probably I won't notice those details as much when I watch it again.
Yeah, I asked that to
Some of-
multiple people after the premiere. Everybody who was involved in the film that I ran into, I was like, "Yo, was Chris Evans on set?"
Some of the effects were not great. I like some of it to me did not look great. That doesn't super bother me. But some of it was, I was like, oh, and that scene in particular, I would like to call out Aaron for definitely clocking Chris Evans' voice before we saw Chris Evans' face. Aaron was ready.
Great reveal though. They played the Captain America
God.
tune, and they put him in red, white, and blue, and then flame on. I mean, come on.
Amazing.
Chris
Can't
Evans
believe
wasn't the surprise. Johnny was the surprise in my mind.
Yes.
Like, oh, cool, Chris Evans, sure. But then like to get that reveal was so much fun.
And he felt like a continuation of that character because that character was such a D-bag.
Yeah.
Like, like Johnny Storm from those movies was such a frat bro, and that is like kind of who he was in this movie. And yeah, that was good stuff.
We'll get into the Wolverine montage, but I just have to say the Wolverine montage and then that reveal with Johnny was what sold me on the movie. It was like, oh wow, they are actually going for it. They are actually like doing things that I did not think were possible, and they're doing them in the really weird way. It was like, I am in for whatever's about to happen.
Aaron, I have a question for you. Out of Happy Hogan, Johnny Storm, Blade, Elektra, Gambit, Hunter B-15, Henry Cavill's Wolverine, and the Hulk, which one left the biggest bruise on your leg?
Oh, it's definitely Blade. It was definitely Blade. It was absolutely definitely Blade. Because it was both sides. And I knew it was coming too, which is the worst part. As soon as the second part, I was like, okay, where are we going to have this happen? Because obviously he's going to be in this group. And as soon as it happened, Jamie, Ariel from this side, and then a chorus of like real cheering. And you gotta understand, these are jaded industry folk. These are not like all just fans. These are like jaded industry folk that snark about these movies after they walk out of them and cheering, hooting and hollering like when he walked out. So it's definitely got to be that. Jamie is right though. I did clock that man's voice before his face even got shown, which is embarrassing.
Not as embarrassing as sobbing when you see a behind the scenes video of Elektra. Okay,
I really thought you were all right. I was like,
it was so
sweet. Is she okay?
Yeah, that credit scene made me emotional too. I started getting choked up, and I was sitting next to Cam trying not to cry because I was like, I want bro to see me cry. I want bro to see me cry. Sit behind
of
Matt
all
Rife.
people, I think would understand. He's also going to listen to this and know you almost cried now. So
well, you know what? I just couldn't do it at the moment. I'm student. We're sitting there. We're sitting in the premiere. Matt Rife is sitting directly in front of me. The Impractical Jokers are sitting right behind me. Jacob Batalon is like over there to the right. Like I'm just like, I can't be crying in this environment. I can't be tearing up in here. But that montage was actually tremendously emotional, and it felt like such a nice, like all these people, Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, Jennifer Garner, Wesley Snipes, they have Fox to thank for having these roles, which had a huge impact on their lives and ours. Like we all watch these things too. So those were the cameos, by the way. Spoiler alert.
I just want to say that I really respect in the credits that they included like movies that are notoriously disliked, like the newest Fantastic Four. I respected that because, like, yeah, they're not that movie's bad, but like it's part of it. It's part of it. Those actors put heart into it. They did their best. It's not their fault. Like I really respected that this movie was like, yeah, nobody liked Elektra, but y'all love Jennifer Garner, so let's get her back, kind of a thing. I think that's really cool.
Yo, the joke about Ben Affleck.
So good. So good.
Where's Daredevil? He's dead. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. I was like, yo. The stray that Ben Affleck just caught from Deadpool. Woo! And then Hugh Jackman got a divorce joke too.
I know.
I was shocked by that.
I was gagged on that one. I was like, whoa! Oh, can we laugh at that one?
That's pretty fresh. Like,
Yeah,
they announced their divorce like in April. Like Jennifer Garner, like they divorced how many years ago? But like Hugh, I was like, whoa, I was a little scandalized by that joke.
Part of me feels like Hugh Jackman was such a delightful interview, and I've watched other interviews of his from this press tour that he's so happy to be back as Wolverine, and he seems so enthusiastic to talk about it and have played this part again. But I feel like this movie came along at a time in his life because I don't know Hugh, I don't know his ex-wife, I don't know what happened between them. That's their business. But I imagine that's not an easy thing to experience, to go through. No matter what the circumstances are. I feel like this movie came along at a time in his life where it probably was so nice to go to work with your best friends and do something you love this way and just be surrounded by people you love in that way. And now he's doing this press tour where he's having so much fun with his friends. It made me happy to think of it that way. Like, man, Hugh, you probably had such a good time when this came to you at such a good time. You may have needed it. I don't know. Maybe he didn't, but I was happy to see that. And God, he did such a good job in this role. It's like, how good luck recasting Wolverine at any point ever. One last thing on this topic I want to talk about, kind of just take a little deep dive into before we get to Easter eggs. The concept of anchor beings. I love it. I love it that the whole movie is set up based on the fact that Wolverine has, now it doesn't make any freaking sense, kind of. Wolverine died, and therefore Deadpool's universe is also going to die because a being of such significance, the anchor being of the universe, in this case Wolverine, died. Seemingly a metaphor for the tentpole, the character, the franchise, the face of the franchise, which Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was for the X-Men movies in large part. I found that to be such a clever way to justify bringing him back. But that said, Logan didn't die for such a long time. Like, all of Deadpool's friends would die of natural causes anyway by the time Logan even died. So I don't even understand that.
I agree because Paradox does say like, oh, it could be like hundreds of years or whatever, but I want to speed up the process, which makes sense. But it is still weird because Logan's death is still way ahead of where Deadpool takes place. So that is still like it's like you don't want to think about it too hard, but I think they justified it enough like that I'm not bothered by that thought because the way that they can jump around anyway. What Deadpool at this moment in time makes the most sense, whatever. But it is a little questionable.
So at the end, there's 2 Wolverines in Earth 1005 then, because Logan hasn't died yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right. No, I think that would make sense.
But that is just in line with the X-Men timeline.
That's fine. I literally. We paid more attention to Loki than the people that wrote this movie. Can I say that out loud? We paid more attention to Loki. People joke around about,
I thought I was satisfied with how they acknowledged Loki. I was happy with it. I'm gonna say that when Paradox was like, the pencil pushers upstairs don't like to do that anymore. That to me was a reference to the changes to the TVA that Loki made in the final couple episodes of season 2.
Well, I'm just saying that like the way in which the machine functioned and stuff to do the spaghettification, for lack of a better way to really put how that nonsense happened in Loki, which is still really horrifying and one of the more gripping, crazy things that's happened since Endgame. I feel like that is how you explain there's like two Wolverines running around and like or like their timeline going bye-bye, because not even Tom Hiddleston going back in time could save all of them from like having weird spaghetti snappage happening to all of them. Like,
Mhm.
and I feel like also that like without really realizing it, because I'm bagging on them a little bit, but I really do feel like without even realizing it, they made a cautionary tale of what Sylvie would have been without actually being turned around and being saved by Tom's Loki, because that's what Cassandra Nova is. Like, if she had had Charles down there in the void, she wouldn't have been on this craziness that she was on. Maybe she would have tried to go kill the timekeepers instead. But yeah, like it was that's a little strange. It's also a nice thing so that we can pluck any one of these handsome Hugh Jackmans out when we need them for Secret Wars.
Oh,
One of the
please.
8 of them will we seen.
Earth 1005 versus Earth 616.
I think we're
Come on, baby.
I-
But put them in the.
I have a
I thought we
question.
were gonna.
that's where we're going.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm confused about something, and maybe, and I'd like you to clear it up for me. The beginning, when he's talking to Happy, it says Earth 616, right?
I
Mhm.
was also
And-
confused by this. Thank you.
And then it jumps to Earth 1, whatever. So it seems like those are two different Wades, but also our Wade had that same memory, and so the 616 really confused me. And if someone can explain it to me, I'd be very grateful.
He did that after the other stuff with the time jumping after Deadpool 2.
Mhm.
So he did it
Okay.
afterwards. That's actually a couple
He
days
got
before the
rid of
snap
it.
happens. Huh?
But he told Happy that he got rid of Cable's time thing. So how would if he's jumping to 616? How is that what you're saying?
I thought that's what they were implying in the show, and like in the
He
movie,
absolutely
was that-
at some point it does. I can't find an exact way to make it make sense how he did it, but it definitely is that he, while doing some time jumping and jumping around and stuff, went the main Wade from Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 went to the sacred timeline Earth 616, tried to join the Avengers, got rejected, went back to his universe in
Okay.
Earth 10005 and stayed there. But I
'Cause, like-
took that as being the exact same way, that there isn't just a Wade in 616 kind of,
that
around.
would be
'Cause I-
hilarious if he just there the entire time.
Yeah. Because I guess they do justify at the end of Deadpool 2, like he goes to the Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds, who's like about to. So it's like, I guess that, it can also hop universes as well as timelines, but they
Right.
don't make that clear enough that like I definitely was confused as well as Jamie. It's Jamie, as someone who loves the multiverse and all of this stuff in comics, it never makes any sense. I can just tell you that now. Time and space and reality and all of that means to me nothing. It's all just meaningless.
Oh,
My
God.
only thing about this is like I'm like whatever, who cares? But like I also feel like he said to Happy, I got rid of the time machine.
Maybe he did that like the day before. Like we don't know. He also could have lied.
Okay.
I don't know.
And how to get back? Oh, you're right. He could have lied. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna rewatch it and really pay attention because I was confused.
Where you input your destination. Read it, Tick. Basil, if I travel back to 1969 and I was frozen in 1967, presumably I could go visit my frozen self. But if I'm still frozen in 1967, how could I have been unthawed in the 90s and traveled back to, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
That's pretty much the logic. That's it.
Fair.
I love the 616 scene, so I don't really care. I could poke holes in this movie's story. I had so much fun with it, and it is an X-Men movie, so timelines don't matter. Like I
Fair,
want
you're
them to, trust me, but it's the X-Men. This is an X-Men movie from pre-Sacred Timeline. It's a McAvoy
Fair.
or Stewart. These timelines are so confusing. But I did want to see all the X-Men in their costumes. I thought we were going to see them all dead. I thought we'd see like Famke Janssen in a full-on Phoenix costume, James Mars in a Cyclops costume. When Logan was telling that story of seeing them all dead, I thought Cassandra Nova was going to unearth that memory for the audience in a visual way. I was like, oh, are they going to show them all dead? And they didn't.
Especially
glad they
because
didn't.
Deadpool says, "Wait for the third act flashback," and then we
Mhm.
didn't get that.
No
I
flashback.
think I was really surprised we didn't get them, but I think what we did get was so cool and unexpected that I'm not mad about it. But we'll talk more about this when we talk about our questions.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to run through all the Easter eggs in the movie. So, I mean, this is spoilers. So it's a great opportunity to subscribe to the Phase Zero channel. Start planning your Sunday 2 days from now, if you're watching live, to join us in room 29AB at San Diego Comic-Con for the first ever Phase Zero panel. And yeah, we'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back to Phase Zero. This is the Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review, and now it's the Easter eggs portion of the show. We have a long list of Easter eggs. We're just going to kind of fly through these. If there's any worth taking more time to talk about, I just feel like we can just rattle them off, and this is for anybody who may have missed something. If there's any that need explainers, we will do that. It starts in... Do you think that's a good way to do it, you guys?
Yeah, there's only one thing that I'm really want to talk about in terms of like... I have thoughts and opinions. But yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So we started the grave from Logan. All I have to say about this is we were so wrong about those woods. It's Sokovia. It's this. It's that. It was freaking North Dakota at Logan's grave. I found that hilarious, and I thought the opening credits was genius.
To my point about like the movie being more aware of kind of Wade's sense of humor and how bad it might be, I was so worried as that sequence was starting. As catchy and as like infectious as it was, I've literally been singing bye 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 ever since I saw this movie after this scene. But I still was kind of like, this is in poor taste. This feels kind of weird to me as someone who was very emotionally affected by Logan. And then the movie actually acknowledged that and kind of was like, this is in poor taste. We're sorry that we're doing this. And that did help me a lot in that process.
I really like that.
Not who I am.
Like, I really like that they're like, we promised you we wouldn't mess with Logan, but we are. But it was still in a way that's like, it doesn't change the ending or anything. I thought that was really a fun choice.
It's funny, man. That was so funny. It was such like a funny tee-hee way to say like, F it. We're doing it. Like you're doing this. Oh no, he's still dead. We just dug up his grave. So yeah, that was hilarious. Got 206 bones in the human body, 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl, a reference to Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively, being on Gossip Girl. When Deadpool is Wolverining in that opening scene, he stabs 2 TVA agents. One yells, "Make it stop." He responds, "Mangold tried," in reference to Logan director James Mangold. In the Wolverine montage, we get several different Wolverines honoring comics and a Superman. Age of Apocalypse, Wolverine shows up, the one-handed guy who looks like an absolute rock star. Uncanny X-Men 251 cover where Wolverine was on the cross. He's tortured by Donald Pierce in that issue. That is pulled straight from the comics. Henry Cavill's Wolverine. Oh my God, when he said, "You look just like, we will treat you so much better than those up the street." I was like, wow, the DC digs don't stop. Tiny comic
I
accurate
have to
short
say something
king
about
Wolverine.
this.
Go.
Can we take a quick moment?
Yeah,
just
we
to talk
need
about
we
Henry
need to
Cavill?
talk about that. I think that deserves its own bullet.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. First of all, I was deeply disappointed when he turned around and he was Henry Cavill. First of all, I'll listen. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I've never seen someone not play Clark Kent in my life, so I don't understand why everybody's obsessed with him. But my thing, why I was disappointed, when I saw that back and he turned around, I thought for sure it was going to be Dougray Scott, who was supposed to be the original Wolverine before he was making Mission Impossible 2, and then it ran long, and then they had to get Hugh Jackman in. That would have been so amazing. And BD, next time you get to interview these people, I really need to know if they approached Dougray Scott about this, because that to me would have been the best choice for that moment. I know everyone likes Henry Cavill. They love him. He has nothing to do with any of this. I would have liked Dougray Scott, but whatever.
I just have to say, for the record, I agree, Jamie. First of all, I think that the fan casts have been very miscast. We'll get into it with the next Wolverine that BD was starting to talk about, but I think that there are markedly better fan casts out there. I don't know. I liked it for the sense of like, wow, they're actually going for it. And I liked it in the sense of like, maybe now he isn't going to play another role in the MCU anytime soon. Like maybe this is a Krasinski situation where we're finally done. It's not, any other character. We'll see, but I don't know. I broke BD. I don't know how, but I broke.
No,
BD.
it's Jamie's red alert face. It's the turn. This new thing that Jamie does now. It gets me every time. Henry Cavill. Yeah, I listen. I'm a Henry Cavill fan. I think it was just fun. That to me was the gratuitous cameo. That's the fun little, like, here's just yes, people have asked Henry Cavill if you're going to do this, if you're going to do that. I think Wolverine has been something he's been asked about. This would have been the same as Daniel Radcliffe showing up, I think. And it's just a fun cameo. That's all it was. So I got a kick out of it. But yeah, the next one was actually the first one was tiny comic accurate short King Wolverine. Old man.
I'm just so happy by that one. That again was one of several moments in this montage where this movie completely won me over because I love Hugh Jackman. Again, no one else will play this character on the level that he has played this character, but just getting the biblically accurate, extremely short version makes me so happy. Like that image is going to be in my meme folder as soon as humanly possible. I loved it.
Old Man Logan, like a proper Old Man Logan was in there. And then the classic suit, the brown and yellow one from that first appearance in the Incredible Hulk comic. I wish there was a little bit more of that scene. I wanted to see them. I wanted to see them at least jump at each other. But that was cool. It was cool.
The reflection in the claws, I screamed like flat out. It was so cool.
Yeah. It made me miss that Hulk, to be honest. I'm not a smart Hulk guy. Happy Hogan's Office, March 14th, 2018. That's just before the snap, by the way. So I believe that was at Avengers HQ. I would assume that's where Happy was. The first of all head of security bit calling all the way back to Iron Man 3. He was the chauffeur calling to Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 1. Went up to head of security, and that was, of course, for head of security, call, all that. We had the Mark II helmet in the background, the prototype for Captain America's new shield, which was sold, or which was the last thing they loaded up when they sold Avengers Tower 1,000 freaking years ago, if you remember in Spider-Man Homecoming. The Mark V briefcase from Iron Man 2, the photo from the end of Spider-Man Homecoming with Tony Stark and Peter Parker. However, they blocked out Peter Parker with the helmet because you can't put Spider-Man in a movie without the rights from Sony. So they were like, we're not playing that card for a picture. And the helmet that they put in front of that picture was an Iron Man helmet that, as the story goes, is the story that a young Peter Parker was wearing at the Stark Expo in Iron Man 2. So that was a super clever way to take Spider-Man out of the movie and still have a reference for the people who are really, really deep cut fans. And for if you aren't familiar with that, because I think a lot of this is like a really deep cut, and it's also like an unconfirmed thing. Like legally, they couldn't do this, but they say they did. There's a kid in the beginning of the Iron Man 2 standing outside the Stark Expo, just little kid wearing an Iron Man helmet, which is the helmet we see in this scene. And Tony flies by him and goes right over to him, and they say that is Peter Parker at the Stark Expo. The Stark Expo sign from 1954 is outside the door. That is the second Stark Expo in the MCU history. Howard Stark ran that one. And the jokes about, is the big man coming in? And he's like, he doesn't do that anymore. And Deadpool goes, what, cameos? I thought that was hilarious. Obviously a reference to Tony Stark. There was the Power of the Marvel Universe is about to change forever line in the TVA. That to me was immediately like, oh, that's a Black Adam crack. But
1,000%.
I asked Wendy Jacobson about that. She produced a bunch of Dwayne Johnson movies like Rampage, San Andreas, not Black Adam. But I said, was that an intentional joke about the infamous line of marketing for Black Adam? She said, no, not that I know of. And I was like, oh, I think Ryan Reynolds might have put one over on you guys then. Also, when he got the suit, if you look at the end of the blades, like the handles, they had a RR on them, engraved on them for Ryan Reynolds, of course. Man, and then it cuts back to the woods. He hits that first TVA agent in the mouth with the sword who insults him about Canada, because Ryan is from Canada. And he says, keep my country's name out of your fucking mouth. Will Smith joke right there to open it up. I was like, damn, nobody is safe.
Honestly, to me, that was a joke that I felt really cringy because like Bad Boys Ride or Die just did the same thing. It's like we get it. Like no one cares about that. No one cares about it.
What was I loved Bad Boys Ride or Die, by the way, and I saw a headline about that. What was the joke in Bad Boys Ride or Die, or the moment that people say reference the Oscars?
He said, keep my captain's name out of your mouth. Will Smith literally said that. And then there's a point where Martin Lawrence smacks him a bunch, which I think is also a reference.
Big bad wolf. You're a big bad wolf. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's clear what that was a joke about. Whatever. I was like, oh, well, nobody's safe. Everybody is going to be a victim of Deadpool jokes. In the Wasteland Void, when they first get there, and I'm sure there's more than this, but Thor's classic helmet, like the old Thor helmet, the old Captain America shield, just both sticking out of the dirt. There's a helicarrier, Moon Knight's cupcake van, Tony Stark's hot rod, the Fantastic car. Which Fantastic car was that?
That to me felt like the old Fantastic Four cartoon. Like that was my best guess. Was that
What
that was like the closest approximation to it? Because we definitely have not seen that exact car in live action.
my thought was, what if that's the Fantastic car that Josh Trank was going to use in his cut of Fan Four Stick, and they just pulled it out of the warehouse and gave it some screen time that actually made the cut.
It was
But
way
who
too retro to fit that movie's aesthetic. Like
That's
that
true.
that would
That's
have been a
true.
stretch in my mind.
Maybe that's the new Fantastic Four movie because who knows? I doubt it though. Also, they call the Honda Odyssey Old Betsy, and that this is not an MCU Easter egg, but I drove a Buick in college and I actually called it Old Betsy. So that felt personal to me. Thanks, Ryan. Deadpool did a little pew pew, phew, phew, like Spider-Man shooting webs, but I don't think they're allowed to reference Spider-Man more than that. And the Milano was also seen in the void crash down there. There was another ship. I forget what it was. I was too busy. It caught my eye. Then the Milano came up, and I wanted to write down both, but I only wrote down the Milano. What's up, Jamie?
I just want to say, since you're talking about this car scene where he's doing the pew pew pews, I don't think we have this in the rundown, so I obviously have to mention the fact that "You're the One That I Want" from Grease was utilized so beautifully. I can't believe we got an entire fight set to a song from my favorite film. That was really, I felt, for me specifically, personally, and I just wanted to thank you, Shawn, for that gift.
Can I just say, with the car of it all, like the used car salesman of it all, and then the bit with the car once they're in the void, people kind of criticize the MCU and they criticize blockbusters at this point for being car commercials at a certain point. Like there was a running joke with Shang-Chi that the car was featured so heavily on like one of the posters it almost looked like a character. And so I kind of loved that they worked in and like purposefully talked about the specs of certain cars while also doing it in a very funny way. Like that really worked for me.
They also wrecked some Hondas. Was Honda the sponsor?
I don't know.
Oh, what to say? Like they wrecked that Odyssey. That Odyssey got beat up. They also verbally poo-pooed all over that Honda Odyssey when it was introduced. Man, I'll be honest though. I don't really want to drive a Honda Odyssey. It's not that exciting. But if you do, good for you. If you're listening to us in a Honda Odyssey right now, shout out. You saw what that car is capable of. There was the Hulk sped from Ragnarok. The Wanda stone carving was really interesting to show up there. I thought, could that mean when she, became that little red flash when Wundagore went down, that this is where she went?
I didn't notice it.
I asked Jamie about it the second it happened, and she was like, "What are you talking about?"
Aaron, don't talk. We're in a movie.
Oh,
so I was so facing you.
But it's Wanda. The rules do not apply. It's like an airport.
They always
Long Island iced teas, whatever you want. Wanda comes up. It doesn't matter.
I missed it. I totally missed it.
Oh my gosh.
I
immediately thought of you. I thought of you and I was like,
Yeah.
Jamie's gonna have so many implications by this being here. And like, what does this mean for this Wanda and everything? And it did not even occur to you. Oh my god.
I'll tell you right now, I don't think it means anything. There can be a million of everything, but I'll report back when I see it again because I missed it.
Yeah, so for long story short, there was a Wanda stone carving from Wundagore. It was in the void. Lots of X-Men. Pyro, Azazel, Sabretooth, Toad. We saw them in the trailers. Lady Deathstrike. All of them, yeah, they were the same actors. And Juggernaut was not Vinnie Jones. Juggernaut, I met the guy who played Juggernaut, and he was really nice. I gotta wait. His name was Aaron. I gotta find his last name. He was a really nice guy. He was also the body double for Ryan Reynolds in Free Guy. And he was in 3 WWE matches a long time ago. Aaron, what was your name? Where'd you go? Aaron Reed. He's a big fella. He was on the cover of Bodybuilding Magazine for being the tallest bodybuilder in the world in 2018. That's how Shawn Levy found him. So now he's Juggernaut. And he always wanted to be a Marvel hero. That he was super cool. He was a super nice guy in my limited time, just interacting with him at the premiere. Anything else about the X-Men, the supporting X-Men that didn't have anything to say?
I was really excited. That was Ray Park, right? Like,
yeah,
as Toad, that was exciting. I was like, but you know what? Missed opportunity to not make a really good, what happens to a Toad when blank joke. Like, it could have been, didn't need to be lightning. It could have been literal. I'm really surprised that there was no joke about that.
When they did not miss a single joke with Gambit, man, if this is where the movie became real inside baseball. Like, you either understand that Channing Tatum almost played Gambit in a Fox movie that never got made, or you are like, what the hell are they talking about? And fortunately for me and all of us, we got it. We were laughing. And the non-nerds, you losers, you weren't having as much fun as us. It was, I thought the Gambit stuff was great. I thought Channing Tatum looked a little cheesy in the costume.
I feel like that was the point.
Tony and I discussed this afterwards because I was like, do you think that's how he really would have played him? Because I was like, because if so, out of my system. And Tony's like, no, it's supposed to be a bit. So I was like, okay, then great, that it was funny. But I was like, but I really was like, was this going to be his Gambit?
I do remember when the movie was in development hell that he talked about the accent coach that he had gotten and like the accent work that he was doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if like some of that made its way here and just was like heightened by a million. I just need to say on here, because I cannot wait. Nicole and I have had a bit since the Gambit movie was in development that if the movie ever became a reality or if he ever played him in live action, we would like dye our hair purple. And I am so excited for her to see this movie because like finally that can happen now. Like, it is so like Beatty said, it is such a small thing, but like that to me, I was so happy.
Yeah, I mean, when Deadpool came over, it was like, not a word. He's like, who's your dialect coach? I was popping for those jokes. I thought that was great. The multiple Punishers joke. Quicksilver died.
Yeah.
Who was that about?
They just mentioned in like the rattling off all of the characters who died, they mentioned a I would assume it's Evan Peters possibly, but I have no idea. Maybe it's also Aaron Taylor. Like, I don't know.
Aaron Taylor Johnson his Quicksilver did die. I just, as I said it, I realized that, but it seemed like these Fox characters were talking about a Fox Quicksilver.
Maybe,
yeah. But
could just be anybody. There's like 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
the Daredevil joke that we mentioned earlier, which was followed by a joke about later in the movie about Wolverine's body and the Hugh Jackman divorce, let himself go after the divorce. I was just like, wow, nobody's safe. The Blades go. Whoever added that one,
of course it's me. I will talk. There was a lot of good Blade stuff. When Blade said to Deadpool, like, "I don't like you," and he goes, "You never did." So Ryan Reynolds was in Blade Trinity and notoriously has talked about how Wesley Snipes hated him on set. I can't believe Wesley Snipes did this because of how much we all know that he hates Ryan Reynolds. So that whole joke, I was cracking up. And then the trying to ice skate uphill line is a line from the first Blade that got a lot of cheers in our theater for sure. And then of course he says there's only one Blade, there'll only ever be one Blade. And the way that Ryan Reynolds or Deadpool looks at the camera makes me feel like this is like this was added later when they knew all the Blade stuff was going down. I don't think it's about Wesley Snipes like I'm the only Blade. I think it's a joke about how this movie's been in development hell.
I agree.
That was a Marvel fan. You know, if you're paying attention to the news, you're gonna get this joke. If you're not, it's just Blade saying something cool. Cassandra's people, they had a whole lot of weapons. One of them I'm sure some of these were even more identifiable. And if I see the movie more than once, I will probably catch them, hopefully, or New Rockstars will, and we'll get them from them. But one of them was the destroyer cannon thing that Phil Coulson blasted Loki with in the first Avengers movie. Yeah, Coulson reference.
I didn't notice that either.
I ordered a Coulson Hot Toys on eBay, and it got here while I was up in New York, and someone stole it off my porch.
I saw your tweet. I'm so sad. I'm heartbroken.
Oh, that sucks.
That's a tough one. Hope you like Marvel, motherfucker. X-23 put the glasses on that she got at the gas station in Logan. There's the amateur magician that left the sling ring for Cassandra Nova. It doesn't matter who the amateur magician was. Is it Doctor Strange that she's just calling an amateur magician? Maybe
that was my guess. That it's just some alternate Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I thought the Deadpool core stuff was also kind of cheesy, but it led to an incredible action scene. What's up, Aaron?
The sling ring has the time stone and the reality stone on each side of it.
Is that what they were?
Yeah.
I noticed the green stone. I didn't even think of the time stone.
Yeah. So she had both of them on there so she could send them through reality to another place.
Wow.
So
interesting.
It was a wild time.
What if that is one of the Stranges from like the 1,000,000,000 Infinity War situations where it's like this is the only one where we win? Like, what if that
Cool.
Strange was one of the ones that lost? That would be really cool.
I didn't. That is so interesting. That's a cool way to do that.
Benedict
I like
Cumberbatch
that so much more.
furiously crazy gluing Infinity Stones to his finger, trying to fix Thanos. Like, something's got to work.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Deadpool, we had Kid Pool, Baby Pool, Head Pool, Cowboy Pool, Lady Pool. Cowboy Pool was played by Matthew McConaughey. Lady Pool, there was no Taylor Swift, but Blake Lively was the voice, not even the face. We didn't even see Lady Pool after all that. We didn't even see her. That
I knew it was Blake when earlier in the movie, Nice Pool has the one line of like, she just had a baby and you can't even tell. Because it's like that also felt like something that was added kind of later in because she did just have a baby. So at that moment, I knew it's like, there's no way it's not Blake.
I want to say I knew by her outfit at the premiere. I saw that outfit and I'm like, she's Lady Deadpool.
Ryan, when he was introducing the movie, what's that?
I was going to say, they were throwing out red herrings, though, in the arrivals for that movie. Like, Walter Scobell is there. He's not in this.
No, yeah.
No.
He's not. I would have bet my house that he was going to be Kid Pool, and he's not. So the weird deception was like running full tilt. Although she's like, forget it, I'm wearing this thing. I love how this looks. Deal with it.
Liefeld's Just Feet shoe store. We saw that in the trailer, though. Obviously, a joke about Rob Liefeld, Deadpool creator, co-creator, not being able to draw feet very well, very famously, infamously. Stan Lee Steamer was on the side of the bus with a picture of Stan Lee, spelt Stanley, but all one word. As in, a nice nod to Stan the Man. There was a Scoutmaster Kevin joke. Somebody said something like, it's gonna be really big, and Deadpool said, that's what Scoutmaster Kevin used to say. And that's a reference to him seemingly having Boy Scout trauma with a Scoutmaster Kevin who did some very gross things. And that has been a recurring joke in the Deadpool movies. And then the ending after it is all settled and the Deadpool Corps has seemingly been defeated and or found their Peter Pool and moved along. Cassandra Nova and Paradox have been defeated. They sit down and have shawarma, and Deadpool says the Avengers discovered shawarma, which is obviously a reference back to the first Avengers post-credit scene. And then we have a post-credit scene, only one, where it is Johnny Storm really saying all the terrible things Deadpool said. He said, and he says, "You can quote me on that." And Deadpool says, "Okay." I thought the quote me on that. Okay, I thought that was hilarious. Johnny Storm's death was disgusting. Absolutely horrifying. Clearly very CGI, but also just gross.
I can't believe he didn't die the first time when he fell.
I thought he did.
That was so funny too. That also didn't look very good, but it was still funny, so I didn't care.
Can I just say, given this movie, given all of the hype everyone had for this movie, for the post-credit scene to be what it was, made me really, really happy. Like, to just have a gag and not have any implications on anything felt so refreshing, given everything that had just happened.
I find that, I'll be honest, y'all know I love connectivity. I wanted a little bit more a picture of what this is going to lead to. Are Ryan and Hugh ever going to play them again? There was the opportunity right there on the bench where he said, am I going to be seeing you around? And it felt like a moment where they were about to tease, like, oh, there's more to come with these guys. Probably not. And he walks away. So
you have this question coming up, and this is a good segue, so I'm just going to say it. I think that the Thor stuff is confirmation that Deadpool's going to be in one of the up two Avengers movies.
Yeah.
I think now I'm now convinced that they're going to confirm that Ryan Reynolds is going to be in an Avengers movie at Comic-Con because of the Thor stuff. I feel like that's absolutely what that was leading towards. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm tinfoil hatting it. Maybe I'm reading too much, but that's what I thought it meant.
Why is Thor crying felt like the almost a sixth scale size of the moment when Tony Stark had the vision of all the dead Avengers back in Age of Ultron, which never ended up directly paying off. But I mean, I don't know. But yeah, that felt like something we were going to see. So maybe why is Thor crying? Obviously, Deadpool replaced Loki from Thor: The Dark World, but be interesting to see how they pay that off. Hopefully, I really hope that is one of the things they pay off. I mean, just now getting confirmation that there's no Eternal sequel in development, and like we're probably never going to see Harry Styles again. Like that's just I'm using that as the example. There's so many things that have been set up since 2021 that we haven't seen followed up with yet. Please don't let this be one of them that takes 5 years. Let's figure this out. All right. These are the questions we have after watching Deadpool and Wolverine. Who is the anchor being in the MCU? Because this is such an interesting concept, and it's got to be Iron Man or Captain America, right?
It's not. Go ahead.
Oh,
Did they say that every single universe has an anchor being? Did he say
Yes,
that?
they did.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's
They
one
did.
person.
Well, it can't be Tony then, because he's dead, right?
But
Oh.
as they said, the death of an anchor being doesn't mean the death of a universe. Like, it can still go on for a huge amount of time before the universe itself dies. I do feel like if it was Tony, that would like say a lot about the MCU itself and kind of the state of the franchise itself. So maybe they aren't going to say that. But I want to hear what Aaron's theory is.
Well, I mean, I thought about that too, Brandon. There's only two real choices because you could put Chris Evans in there, but that's because we all love my boy, and he would never say any of those terrible things he said into a microphone. He would never. He would never. America's booty does not do that. I think it's Spider-Man. I think it's Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's different than the other Spider-Mans, just like Miles is. I think they're both anchor beings for both their weird little universes. And that if anything bad happens to the kid, oh God, oh no. You know,
I
the
like
one
that.
thing that really does make it unique is his approach to fighting the villains and then being raised by, you know, Aunt May and then Tony Stark and there being no Uncle Ben. He's a little bit of a weirdo too, just like Miles is in a lot of ways. Also, like you said, it's a way for you to sidestep the whole, we had to back up the Brinks truck for the inevitable now Robert Downey Jr. return. We just had freaking Chris Evans play Human Torch. He's coming back, you guys. I've been saying it for 3 years. I hope this is like proof that we've slowly been creaking the door open, and here we are. So,
I mean, I think it's just I think Iron Man works because this movie itself takes cracks at the fact that the MCU isn't performing as well as it did. Wolverine dying and being the anchor being, which is destroying Deadpool's universe, is not only a canon thing destroying Deadpool's universe. It's obviously a play on the fact that all the movies after Wolverine died, well, it kind of started to go downhill. Obviously, Disney bought Fox, so that was the true end of the universe. But without Iron Man, without Captain America, not that this is necessarily the cause of all these things, but it's a little harder for Marvel to make a little bit of money. So, a common thing is you guys shouldn't have killed Iron Man, whatever. So I think that it's a clear play on the fact that not only is it canon for a character to die, and therefore the universe in canon is affected by it, but because Deadpool is so meta and fourth wall breaking that if a character dies, audiences don't go out to see other characters in that universe as much, and therefore the franchise dies.
I agree with that.
I want Richard, when Secret Wars does finally come out and we all have gray hair, I want you to zoom in on Brandon's face in the theater when Tony Stark turns to Peter Parker and goes, I'm limited by the technology of my time, but one day you'll figure this out. And when you do, you'll change the world. And what is and always will be my greatest creation is you. And Brandon will be a puddle on the ground when we inevitably do that.
I asked Feige if Iron Man is the anchor being. That man would not give me anything.
There you go.
Would not give me. He just said, I'm excited that you're asking me about an anchor being. But
Are you
The
sure-
answer is
are you sure
obviously
Feige-
Madison.
Oh,
anchor being with a Y.
My girl.
not where you
Yeah.
think. The Void, very obviously to me now, is Battle World from the Secret Wars comics.
Yep.
Because when they were on their road trip, 1 second they're in a desert, 1 second they're in rolling hills, 1 second they're in the woods, and it was just clear-cut border that they drove across from rolling hills to desert and things like that. So to me, the Void is definitely visually representing Battle World, which is where all these heroes and villains go to fight in the Secret Wars Multiversal War comic, the new one. So that to me was right. I think it's very clear.
Yes.
Oh, good question there. Why did Laura and who wrote that? That's a good question.
I did. So my biggest question that I had, other than the thing that we talked about with Earth 616, how did Laura end up in the Void to begin with? Like, I know everything that we just said with like the anchor being and whatever, but like, how did because at first I was like, maybe that's a Laura from a different universe and not the Laura that we know from Logan, but like very clearly it is meant to be. So like, how did she end up in the Void to begin with?
I feel like it's not clear. I feel like she could easily be another another Laura, because she can still have the same glasses and still have the same relationship with him. To me, it wasn't a guarantee that she was the same, even though all the emotional beats were the same. I don't think that necessarily means that. But also it would be interesting if it was her to find out what happened. I think either is fine, and I don't think it was 100% either way.
That's fair. Yeah, I assume that after Logan died, which is so far in the future from Deadpool, TVA started pruning people, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't really, there isn't. I mean, that's just trying to find a way to make it make sense. I don't know that there is an answer.
Can we
but if
all
we ever
agree?
go-
I would like her to be in whatever weird culmination this is.
Mhm.
She's
Yes!
really,
Yo,
really good
I
at
thought-
this whole thing.
No, I thought for sure all 4 of them were dying. I thought Gambit, Elektra, Blade, and
Yeah.
X-23 were dying there as their send-off. Like, hey, thanks for playing. Thanks for coming back. We're giving you closure on a role that you never thought you'd get closure on. We're giving audience is closure once and for all. Everybody at the junkets can stop asking you if you'll ever do it again because they will see this story end for you. And it very much didn't end for them. I was shocked.
I'm so happy because I was so worried that was going to happen, and that because I loved that they all died in Multiverse of Madness. I stand by it. I think it's hilarious. But if they had done that again, I just don't think I could handle the discourse. Like I just I just didn't want to go through this again. And so when Eliath came through, I thought for sure that they were dead. So I was so relieved because I didn't need this energy back from the Multiverse of Madness discourse.
Yeah. No, I was thrilled that they survived. When Blade got stabbed like with that sword, that's when I was like, oh, I was like, one at a time, we're about to see them all go down. But instead we got to see Gambit do some kick-ass action scenes, yo. Shawn Levy directed some epic action. Not only was Wolverine versus Deadpool in the beginning when he said, get your special sock out, and that scene was great. The sliding camera continuous shot with the Deadpool core action scene was great. And then the Gambit stuff was my favorite of all 4, but all 4 of them absolutely kicked ass in that sequence. It was so cool. It was great. So we already talked about, are there 2 Wolverines on Earth? 10005. Will Hugh Jackman return? I mean, let's just put a hand up right now, and on 3 if you think Hugh Jackman is going to return. 1, 2, 3. I mean, 3.5. Jamie seems a little unsure. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. This guy is coming back. They're not gonna not bring him back for Secret Wars, if it's even called Secret Wars anymore. By the way, I feel like Secret Wars doesn't sell nearly as many titles as some other movie titles could. So I wouldn't be shocked if at San Diego Comic-Con Saturday night they announce a new title for it, and it's Avengers vs. X-Men or something like that. I think that'd be cool.
I think my only thing was that this whole time I've been like, oh, we're getting them back, Avengers vs. X-Men, all this stuff. But those end credits felt like it felt like, okay, we are officially done with all the Fox people. But then why was Beast in Marvel's? But so I'm really torn because to me, those end credits felt like a goodbye because it wasn't just the people we saw in this movie. It was all types of Fox stuff. And so, but I do feel like, I don't know.
I have to say, because like I have had this debate with Chris and just in general of like who can they bring back for Secret Wars that like actually justifies the audience pop, and I feel like the answer is mostly characters from the Fox universe with like obviously the Spider-Man and other people thrown in. So like you could not take that entire universe off of the table. We would definitely be getting some of them back in Secret Wars. I think that if anything, the mid-credits stuff was just to more kind of like celebrate the journey of all of those actors like getting to this point. And also, you know, as people have said, like Kevin Feige was involved with so many of these projects, like that probably also was a very personal thing for him. And like I think it more just leans to the idea of like as they were talking about like the ending and mattering and all of that sort of stuff, it kind of is showing like those movies mattered even as they weren't all well received and they were all kind of met with a little bit of distaste.
Yeah. I think if they weren't coming back, if they weren't going to bring more actors back, this is my wrestling fan speaking, we would have gotten them in this movie. Aaron knows what I'm talking about. You know, if you're gonna, you got to save that payoff. You got to have a tease and then a face-to-face and then a fight and then a bigger fight and then a match. And that has to happen over the course of 3 months. It's never all at once. Like obviously these guys should just fight right now. But when you build, when you make the audience want it, when you make us talk about all this stuff. Same thing, and it's good wrestling and storytelling, and that's just that's where my mind goes. To see Wolverine with these other characters again is a payoff moment. That's a ticket seller, and it's more of a ticket seller if you haven't already seen it in Deadpool and Wolverine.
I saw fans of our show talking about they were hoping Toby would be in this. I'm like, boo, Toby was never going to be in this movie, y'all. Like,
No.
what are you talking about? Like, you think Kevin Feige's going to let them, like Brandon said, I'll say it, waste the eventual Tobey Maguire and Hugh Jackman in costume standing across from each other in a Deadpool movie?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
No.
We're all better than that. I expect better out of y'all.
This movie already became an event. It didn't need it. I
Yeah.
think you have to save
Right.
that for a movie where you can market that's happening.
Yep.
I just want to shout out how my shirt is kind of lining up here with the Wolverine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know if it was like on your shoulder, like the actual logo, but it's half and half. Holy crap.
All right. So I think that's just about everything we've got here. So anybody who has questions, feel free to jump in, bring them to the panel on Sunday. It's room 29AB. We're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, it's going to be 10 scores all around for our final reviews of Deadpool and Wolverine. This is our least favorite part, probably your favorite part, but that's the way this thing goes sometimes. So subscribe to the channel during the break. We will see you in just a moment. Welcome back to Phase Zero. This is our Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review show. It is time for the 10 score. We have covered all the Easter eggs. We have covered all our questions. Well, probably not all our questions. I think we're going to think of more questions the more we think of this movie and probably see it again. And maybe even more after Comic-Con and everything. Also worth saying, this was pre-taped. It's airing Friday morning. Thursday night is the Deadpool panel. So some stuff could have happened Thursday night that they're like, why aren't you talking about that? Because we squeezed this in. I have like 10 hours at home between the Deadpool premiere being in New York and having to go back to the airport for a San Diego Comic-Con. We filmed it in those 10 hours on Tuesday night. Jenna's got to leave early in the morning to get there to San Diego as well. Everybody's got to work tomorrow. But so we, at the time of this recording, have not seen or heard anything from the Deadpool and Wolverine Celebration of Life panel at San Diego Comic-Con, which I hear pre its existence is actually going to be really freaking cool. But I don't even know what that means. I just heard it's going going to be cool. So 10 score time. Jamie, you're at the top of the screen.
With Marvel on Letterboxd, I usually don't give a score till my second viewing because it's such a thing. But if I was going to give it a score today, I think I would have given it a 4. So that would bring us to an 8. And I'm okay with that math. So I'll give it an 8.
All right. Jenna, how you feeling?
So I wrote our official review on Comic Books, so you can go check that out if you want to hear me yap even more about this movie and write a lot more. I gave it a 4.5 in that review. That would become a 9. I think maybe a little bit lower than that is where I'm actually going, but we can only round up and down so much in the comic book rating system. So I would say like an 8.9 is probably where I'm at.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. Aaron, how you feeling?
I did enjoy myself. It is not perfect. It is not perfect. I really feel like a slightly more earnest version of this movie would have been like in the top 2 of me for my movies after Endgame. Like really, like it would have been so much more. But I don't like mean things, so I'm just a weirdo. So it doesn't really matter.
No.
8.75 on this one because even with my reservations about some of the meanness in this thing, and boy howdy is it violent, I did enjoy it. I mean, there's nothing you can really do where you see Chris Evans scorpion himself in the middle of a wasteland.
I agree with a lot of what you guys said, and it's interesting because I feel like I'm scoring this one based on the time I had in the theater. Like just how much I wanted to have fun. I wanted a little bit more depth. I wanted a little bit more. Saying I wanted a little bit more Marvel is too simple because this movie has Marvel all over it. I wanted this to be more integrated into giving us a direction for the MCU because I'm greedy and I want to see it all start to make sense. I do think the concepts it introduces, like anchor beings and the things we talked about, are going to be very big for the future of the MCU. At least I really hope so. I think some of the violence is cartoonish. Some of the action is silly, like you said. Chris Evans got scorpioned. If something like that happened in Captain America: Brave New World, I would deduct points for it. But it's Deadpool and Wolverine, so I'm having a good time, and it can be a little silly. Even it's a little too silly. So I'm going to stick with what I said on Twitter. I'm at a 9 out of 10 on this. I just had so much fun watching it. I laughed so much. I just that to me is enough. It was a really good time at the theater. There were some things I wanted to land a little bit better, to be a little bit deeper, but there were other things that happened that I could have never expected to happen that were incredibly satisfying. So that's mine. So Jamie, wait, what was your score, Jamie?
An 8.
8. Okay. So plus 8. Okay. So divided by 4. The official Phase Zero score for Deadpool and Wolverine is an 8 point. We're going to round up 8.7 out of 10, which I got to say,
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's a
very
fair
fair.
score. I'm real interested once everybody sees this to talk with everybody. I can't wait for our panel on Sunday because I think there's going to be so much from the Deadpool panel, so much from the Marvel Studios panel. And I think it's just be fun because I want to start that panel just by kind of reintroducing ourselves, because I think a lot of people are going to come into our panel and see Marvel and they might not have listened to Phase Zero yet. So it's going to be a fun opportunity to talk about ourselves a bit and reintroduce people who are newcomers and didn't listen to the scroll hundreds of episodes down to find out our first episodes and where we introduced ourselves and where I used to ask icebreakers because we were trying to figure out who's going to be on the show regularly. So yeah, I cannot wait to see everybody in room 29AB on Sunday at noon. The fact that's happening is insane to me, and it means so much that we're able to do that. The four of us are going to have so much fun, and I hope you guys have fun with us. Jamie, any last words for today's Deadpool and Wolverine review?
Yes, I have two quick things I would like to say. The first is I cannot believe on our show Monday I said the words, as much as I want Blade to happen, it's never going to happen. I've never been so happy to be wrong in my life. But I also want to say that when he walked out, I was like, Nick Cage is coming. We're getting Cage. So like I totally I got what I wanted. You know, you give them an inch, they take a mile. I really thought after that we were getting Cage, but I'm just so happy we got Blade. The other thing I want to say is that I hope that sometime in the near future, BD, Jenna, Charlie, and I can say where Deadpool and Wolverine falls into the rankings that we just did. I would like to see where we all would insert that, and then Aaron can watch from afar.
Jenna, any last words for today's show?
It's at Hey It's Jenna Lynn on social media. As always, go read some comics. They invited so many comic creators to the Deadpool premiere, and even just seeing their photos on social media made me so happy, because Deadpool would not be what he is if it was not for the comics. Even just seeing the credits of all of the comic creators that credited, I was just pointing out so many names and so excited. So go read Deadpool comics, go read X-Men comics, go read Wolverine stuff. You will not be disappointed.
Aaron.
It's at Summer Lake Hornet. I would like to thank everybody for consuming all of our stuff around Deadpool Wolverine. This thing is looking to be massive. I am feeling great about my Price is Right style prediction that this thing might go near 200 million. It looks like I'm not dead, which is just delightful. Also, if you are looking to stay away from spoilers and for some reason you are listening to this thing, that Variety review,
oh man,
oh my god, crazy.
Yo. I mean, you could just always count on that. You could just always count on that.
Just don't understand why you would do it. Like
death, taxes, and spoilers and Variety reviews.
It's crazy. So, man, I feel bad for anybody who had any of it ruined for them beforehand, because there was real joy in that theater going in blind. Everybody was like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Oh man, some people aren't going to get that. You're not going to get the terrible Cajun accent without no context. And who wants that?"
Man, if X-Men 97 hadn't just dropped such incredible Gambit content, maybe Channing would have had a chance. But I mean, I love seeing it. I listen, I love seeing Channing as Gambit, but the suit was a little cheesy. But all right, that's our show, everybody. And that's it. I love seeing it, Channing. If you're around, I would love to come meet up, take a picture, reading a Gambit comic with you. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I hope to see you all on Sunday. Thank you for hanging with us through this Deadpool and Wolverine. We jumped, at the time of this recording, we jumped in subscribers by 1,200 in the past week.
Wow.
We crossed 30,000, and we've had 1,200 new subscribers that's thanks to shorts and interviews and all kinds of stuff and great shows we've done live. Thank you all for hanging with us. So play our show for your mom, play it for your dog. If it's all dog subscribers, that is totally cool with us. We have the goodest audience in the world.
We didn't talk about Deadpool.
Yeah, we didn't even bring up Dogpool, but we gotta end
Yay.
the show. We
We gotta
gotta
go.
save something. If we gave them everything in the first one, they wouldn't buy tickets to the next one. So we'll talk about Deadpool and Wolverine again on Wednesday, I'm sure. So yes, thank you so much again, everybody. August 1st, Guardians of the Galaxy turns 10, and we have a very special episode that we're going to be doing on Phase Zero. So please don't miss that. See you there.